Not many third-party game developers get the chance to officially make a big Mario game, and few have done it as often as Square Enix. Their most notable production starring the plumber would be the cult classic Super Mario RPG, released way back in 1996. For years, fans have been clamoring for Square Enix to reunite with the Mario IP, Smash doesn't count, in the hopes of a true sequel to Super Mario RPG. Surprisingly, they actually have developed 4 other games starring the Jumpman, but they're not the games you would normally expect. So let's take a glance at the eclectic assortment of Mario games developed by Square Enix. Super Mario RPG was conceived by both Square and Nintendo during a business meeting, according to an interview from the magazine Family Computer Magazine and HAL. Yeah, I don't know what a HAL is either. Basically, Square wanted to make a JRPG that even normies would want to buy, while Nintendo wanted to have Mario finally start in a genre that he hadn't at that point, a role-playing game. The game's director Chihiro Fujioka stated that both Nintendo and Square wanted to make an RPG that didn't just feel like an ordinary RPG but with Mario characters swapped in. As a result, Super Mario RPG feels like it has all of Square's signature charm, humor, and wit that they could possibly muster into a cartridge, with a unique battle system slapped on for good measure. Although the style and tone of the game feel very much like a Square production, it still feels appropriate for Mario. The whole game is filled with lighthearted and goofy interactions that make the game entertaining to sit through, and it's the first time that the Mario universe has been explored so thoroughly, at least in game form. The game starts out with a premise just like any other Mario game, with Mario showing up at Bowser's front door to rescue Princess Peach Toadstool once again, before a giant sword with a face pulls a Sephiroth and abruptly impales the castle from above. The castle becomes inaccessible to Mario, and with the princess and Bowser nowhere to be seen, Mario sets out to find a princess and collect all 7 star pieces to save the day. The story itself is extremely basic, and it knows it. Rather than try to play up any form of intensity or melodrama, the story instead opts to play almost every scene for laughs, which really makes it feel like I'm playing through some sort of Saturday morning cartoon, one that's better than the actual Mario cartoons. One example early on would be when Mario returns to the Mushroom Kingdom after assisting fellow party member Mallow, only to find the town is being invaded by Shy Guys on dangerous pogo swords. Taking the time to rescue and talk to each of the Toads reveals a kind of lackadaisical attitude from the Toads, like they can't even be bothered to care. Wow, really? Even the Mushroom Kingdom inhabitants gotta quarantine themselves in 2021? I try some old-fashioned escapism and a 25-year-old game is somehow not letting me. This simple but charming tone extends to the characters of Super Mario RPG as well. Of course, there's fan-favorite party member Geno, who comes across as confident and duteous while packing some of the most powerful spells in the game, and there's also not-so-favorite Mallow, who actually feels more involved in the story due to having his own mini-story arc. It's not a surprising or deep character arc or anything, he just learns that he isn't a tadpole like he's been led to believe, but rather a prince of a cloud kingdom. While these original characters have their fans and are neat additions to the universe, the Mario characters, for me at least, far outshine the new additions. For instance, Mario, while still being the courageous and straightforward hero, manages to react to the world around him in a vivid, charismatic manner, all by communicating via a rare Italian dialect. Mime charades. With this ability, I'm surprised he doesn't just mime into Bowser and attempt to sneak his way to the princess. I know Italians are known for their excessive body language, but this is completely accurate to actual Italians. Nintendo did their research. Our hero is also more hot-headed than usual, being prone to violent outbursts when insulted, and attempting to punch his way through most problems. His simple but entertaining emotes play off amazingly with the real star of the show, Bowser. King Koopa tries desperately to keep up his tough and mighty persona, and he fails spectacularly. He's played up as the brutish bully of a story, but with the typical insecurities of the bully type turned up to 11. Everyone constantly takes shots at Bowser, making him the punching bag of the game, like in Smash, but metaphorically. This is the first time that Mario and Bowser ever team up, and the only times when they do team up again are in other RPG series. Princess Toadstool is also playable, and there's something magical about a team of those 3 all jumping someone. The funniest interactions in the game come from when Mario, Toadstool, and Bowser are all together, like with Toadstool and Booster's aborted wedding. Right before a boss fight, Toadstool's accessories are scattered across the aisle, with Mario and Booster's minions scrambling to retrieve it. After retrieving everything and returning to the princess, she attempts to give Plumber Boy a little smoochie. If you're a bit slow in retrieving the items, the one who ends up kissing Mario is sexy old Bowser. I guess this is why Mario is so homophobic in Mario 64. The game even references Final Fantasy frequently. There's a crystal you can obtain in the game that lets you fight Culex, who looks straight out of Final Fantasy IV. The music that plays during the fight with Culex is also a remix of Final Fantasy IV's, and he even uses 4 elemental crystals to attack your party. My biggest complaint about the game would be about how ambiguous timed hits are. During battle, tapping the A or Y button at the right time before your action connects will boost the amount of damage that you deal or health that you restore. You can also press the A button before an enemy attacks to reduce the damage you take. However, the timing tends to vary wildly from enemy to enemy. Sometimes you're supposed to hit the A button before the enemy attack looks like it's hitting you, as you would expect. A lot of the times though, you have to hit the A button after the enemy's animation looks like it hit you, and like, how does throwing your guard up after getting hit protect you? Luckily, the timing itself tends to be very lenient. Although it's rough around the edges, this system would end up being further refined throughout both the Paper Mario and the Mario and Luigi series, and while those series all have similar vibes to Super Mario RPG, and could even occasionally surpass their precursor, Super Mario RPG had a special flow to it that seemingly only Square could fully achieve. Mario and Luigi felt closest in terms of tone and world development, probably because a bunch of the staff behind the original RPG went on to form the studio Alpha Dream and or work on the Mario and Luigi series, but Alpha Dream is about as dead as everyone's hopes for Super Mario RPG 2. Even with two whole other turn-based series starring Mario back in the day, fans were still itching to reunite with the original world that had been introduced, or for Geno to show up in Smash Bros. At least, from anything really. Aside from a minor cameo or two, no one had seen anything of Super Mario RPG's original characters or worlds. However, Square, now merged with Enix, would once again come to develop a game using the Mario IP. What's more, it would even be a bit of a crossover with the Final Fantasy series. 10 years after Super Mario RPG, the long-awaited reunion between JRPG company and famous Italian men was released for the DS as Mario Hoops 3-on-3. What? I didn't even realize Square Enix made any sports games, but surprisingly, both Square and Enix have developed or published a couple of sports games before they ended up merging. I looked up the development history of Mario Hoops 3-on-3 so I could see why, out of all developers, Nintendo chose Square Enix to make a sports game. Turns out it's actually the other way around. According to a Famitsu interview, an original basketball game was conceived at Square Enix, and during its conception, the developers felt that Mario characters would suit the game and ended up contacting Nintendo. I looked up the director Shin Azuma as well, but there's not a lot of information out there about him. He's only been credited for directing Mario Hoops, its sequel Mario Sports Mix, and being the movie designer for Final Fantasy Origins. Guess he's too busy being a Street Fighter character. So Mario Hoops 3-on-3 is a very arcadey sports game that takes a lot of elements from Mario Kart, the most obvious example being the question blocks scattered throughout the court. Dribbling the ball on these question block tiles will give you coins, which will increase the amount of points you get upon scoring. If you don't have the ball though, you can instead pick up an item a la Mario Kart and use it to harass the opposing team, power yourself up, or lay traps. The main mode of the game is a tournament mode, but it's brain dead easy until you get to the final cup. The only other things to do aside from tournament mode are some tutorial challenges, some mini games, run through a hard mode of a tournament mode, and multiplayer. You can also unlock cosmetic skins for characters and the basketball. The most interesting part of the game are the touchscreen controls, which work well enough. You move with the D-pad and face buttons and switch characters with the left and right triggers, but do everything else with the touchscreen, like pass, shoot, and dribble. The simple mechanics of the game allow the touchscreen controls to feel accessible and adequately responsive, although you can always set up the face buttons to do some of the touchscreen controls if you really feel like it. Relying on only the face buttons though prevents you from using the special shots of each character, breaking your opponent's ankles, or even just getting through the menus. The stages have their own unique hazards that range from a nice change of pace to more intrusive than my family whenever I'm trying to. The best stage in the game is easily Bowser Jr.'s Casino Court, where the slot mechanics and catchy music track make it a joy to play in. Although, can I ask why they gave the one stage about gambling to a literal child? Bowser, your kid needs an intervention. He's gambling all of your money away at blackjack and lewd gacha games. The Square Enix elements of the game aren't very apparent at first. Almost nothing about this game's tone, presentation, or music feel different from any other Mario game. If Nintendo said that they developed the game, everyone would be none the wiser. There's no story mode or plot, so don't expect to collect all 4 magical baskets so you can slam dunk basketball god himself in typical JRPG fashion. Even the characters themselves act as plainly as they ever have. The first thing I noticed that wasn't typical Mario stuff was a bomb enemy from Final Fantasy as a stage hazard, as well as a mimic item in the water court. If you get to the end of a final cup, you have to play an extra match against some familiar characters that belong to Square Enix that haven't been seen in a while. Those 3 iconic characters are Ninja, White Mage, and Black Mage. Bit of a missed opportunity there, eh? A Moogle and Cactar gotta be playable over Mallow and Geno. The character designs of the Final Fantasy crew don't look too out of place since they're redesigned to fit within the Mario universe. especially the White Mage, who looks like a proto-Rosalina. There's also a sequel on the Wii called Mario Sports Mix. Basketball returns, but there's also 3 other sports that Mario hasn't played yet: hockey, dodgeball, and volleyball. Although having more sports does diversify the game somewhat, the game tones down the eccentric Mario aspects of Hoops 3-on-3, and it streamlines most of the mechanics. The gimmicks are a lot less intrusive, and the controls do feel better, but everything being toned down kinda makes the game feel more generic and forgettable in my opinion. Even the music is a downgrade. On the upside, the game has great production value, with a lot of unique little animations for every character, like with Luigi literally slam dunking himself into the net. There's still no real story mode or anything, so don't expect to... Oh, you do actually get to collect 4 magical sports crystals and then slam dunk a final boss in typical JRPG fashion. Kinda wish more sports games had weird boss fights like this. So, from JRPG to gimmicky sports games, just gotta make a first-person shooter next, and they would have officially developed the strangest lineup of Mario games. Instead, the next and final game on our lineup technically isn't really a Mario game, but rather the 10th installment of an Enix series that also happens to be a massive crossover with Mario. Up next, we have Fortune Street, released in 2011 for the Nintendo Wii. Fortune Street, or Itadaki Street in Japan, is a series that originally started out as a mere minigame in Dragon Quest III, and it was apparently so popular they ended up making a whole spin-off series from it. The first entry to crossover with the Mario series was for the DS, released in 2007 only in Japan, but for this video, I'm gonna look at the first game in the series that released worldwide. Question, do you like Monopoly? And if you said yes, we all know you're lying. Well, Fortune Street is like Monopoly, but with a stock market system added on top of buying property. There's a tour mode where the goal is to finish in a certain placing against predetermined AI opponents, an exhibition mode where you can play with your friends or the computer in custom matches, and an online mode that, like most Wii games, doesn't work anymore. There's 14 maps that are accessible from the start, with 6 more that you unlock. The map selection is probably the best part of a game from what little I've played. There's stages from Super Mario Galaxy, a level based off Mario Kart, Yoshi's Island, Delfino Plaza, and Peach's Castle. Now I can't really speak for the Dragon Quest side of things since it isn't my cup of tea, but from what I've seen, the game is also packing good representation for that series as well. The character roster is also solid, with a nice variety of different Mario and Dragon Quest characters, although bizarrely enough, you'll have to unlock Princess Peach. I feel bad for the little kids playing this that just wanted to play as their favorite princess, and got stuck with
Mamma mia!
Unlike the character or stage roster, the presentation is the exact opposite of solid. Unlike Mario Party, you aren't actually walking around on the stage you choose, but rather a bunch of bland, floating platforms and tiles, with the stage mostly acting as a backdrop. There are unique gimmicks for each stage at least, but the presentation would have been much better if the different locales were more than just a dumb wallpaper in the background. The biggest oddity in the game would be how the characters talk. I mean, a game about real estate and the stock market is definitely out of place for Mario, and I'm pretty sure that Dragon Quest characters are from far enough in the past where there's nothing like a stock market. In the match that I played against Mario characters, it was surreal to see Donkey Kong excitedly talk about the stock market while Bowser invests in property. Although, I guess DK does look a bit like a businessman, with that tie and all. The dialogue coming out of these characters' mouths is so forced, awkward, and bizarre that it's kind of fascinating. I want to see more Mario characters talk about stuff that normally isn't even a concept in the universe, like cryptocurrency or something. What isn't charming, however, is how characters just keep talking non-stop throughout the match, so much so that it got tiresome immediately. Even by the end of my first game, I had seen characters repeat the same lines over and over. The dialogue ended up taking way too much time out of a game. It doesn't help that the matches themselves take a long amount of time, like with Monopoly. In between the repetitive dialogue, basic chance games, and all the turns taken, matches can easily go over an hour. Luckily, unlike Monopoly, the game ends whenever a varying amount of players go bankrupt, or if one player achieves a certain net worth and reaches the bank. In both matches that I ended up slogging through, no one ever actually came close to bankrupting. The most basic strategy that I've seen for the game is to buy up shops in a district with a lot of traffic, invest a lot of money into that district's stocks, and then upgrade those properties by hopefully landing on a shop that you own or through a lucky chance event. In both games that I played through, the highest ranked AI seemed to gracefully avoid all of my invested shop spaces, while everyone landed on their spaces non-stop, which got me salty real quick. The game as a whole feels very uninvolved, especially if you're playing by yourself, since the AI rarely makes use of the interesting auction or selling mechanics, so most games you just roll the die, wait like a minute for your turn, and then roll the die again. I'm sure the game can be fun enough if you're playing with 3 other peeps, but I think there are way better Nintendo games you can ruin friendships over. Well, that was a weird set of games. One game was the Mario RPG to start all other Mario RPGs, two of them are your average Mario sports games, and Fortune Street technically isn't even a Mario game, it was just advertised like one. Although hey, the Super Mario Wiki counts it as a Mario game, so I guess I will too. Mario is front and center on the cover. Even though Mario characters appear across these 3 titles, they act completely different in every one, with Mario Hoops having the most typical depictions of the cast, Super Mario RPG having the most charming depictions, and Fortune Street having the Netflix adaptation depictions. With proper JRPGs starring Mario no longer being a thing these days, maybe it's finally time for Square Enix to develop Super Mario RPG too. As for what kind of game you think it'll be, well, leave a comment down below. You know, maybe instead of an RPG, they'll make, I don't know, Mario Hoops 3-2 on 3-2.